beautiful thing!
Hello and welcome to the NRL.com 2024 draw release. It's an exciting day on the Rugby League calendar. Round one in the NRL Telstra Premiership of 2023 saw the Dolphins launching their inaugural season with an upset against the Roosters, and not one, but two games decided by Golden Point. And the season also wrapped up with one of the greatest grand final matches we have seen in a long time. So, what does 2024 season have in store for us? We're going to unpack that all right now. My name is Renee Gartner and I'm joined by NRL legend James Graham. Welcome to the lounge.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Desk, I should say.
Yeah, it's great to be here talking all things the draw. It's the longest time that we'll have to go without football.
You were right.
I love the internationals. This is the first weekend without my football fix. So, really looking forward to unpacking the draw and get excited about what's to come in season 2024.
All right, well, we're going to give you plenty of footy fix to talk about in the next couple of minutes. Also joining us is our stats man and also our NRL fantasy host, Paulie G. He's going to join us with all the analysis as well too. Paulie, welcome.
Thanks, Gart. It's good to be here. A lot to unpack. Obviously, draw just dropping, and hopefully we can get a few little tidbits for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, it is a monster season ahead and it begins first weekend of March. The season opener, it's a blockbuster in Vegas and it's followed by a whole weekend of games the following week. And this is just round one. There are 204 games in total and we're going to analyse some of the key matchups. We're going to start with the Brisbane Broncos grand finalists last year. James, what really jumps out to you from the list, I guess, in the first look of the draw now with the Bronx?
Look, for the Broncos, look, we all know what happened at the back end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to move past that now.
Yep.
And there's no better to start to the season with that blockbuster in Las Vegas against the Roosters. The Roosters, for me, this year will see the biggest improvements from season 2023 going into 2024. Lots to be excited about for the Sydney Roosters, but for the Broncos, they've got to move past that, go over to Vegas. They're not there for a holiday. They're not treating it as a holiday. Yes, all the fans are super excited, but Vegas, it doesn't matter. They're there to get the 2 points.
And you've also got a couple of you've got the grand final rematch, which you've spoken about, which is on the Thursday night. But
it's in round 3 as well.
I know.
We don't have to wait long.
Straight away.
We do not have to wait long. That everybody who's got any interest in rugby league should be tuning in to see that. These are two fantastic teams, and the fact that we only have to wait till round 3, it's going to be a bit of a grudge match. You know, bragging rights, you know, there'll be plenty of variables about what you could have won, but you didn't.
That doesn't happen, does it?
Of course. And even if the Broncos get the 2 points, look, they'll be looking to take on the Panthers a little bit later on, but we're in for a treat. Any sports fan, they're in for a treat that night.
And then obviously you've got round 6 as well too, taking on the Dolphins, a nice Queensland derby there.
Yeah, the Dolphins will be very impressed with their pre-season signings. A couple of old Broncos boys in there as well,
yes,
in Flegler and Farnworth. So that's something to look out for. We can see the scenes there from last year's first ever Brisbane Queensland derby. It's very exciting, and it's only going to get bigger and better as this cross-city rivalry just grows, and you see players like Flegler and Farnworth going up against their old mates, so a lot to look forward to in that game.
Yeah, well, Mal Meninga's come out and said that this is going to be the year that they break the 18 drought. He thinks the biggest experience and exposure has come from that international exposure that we've seen those players in that have played over in that Pacific Championships and whatnot as well too. But Paulie, I'm very interested to see what you really love about this one.
Interesting about the Brisbane Broncos, because round 3 from round to round 11, they actually led the league. Top of the pops, couldn't be beaten. They won their first 5. This year, it's very tough. James, you've already alluded to. Round 1, they've got to go to Vegas, play the Roosters. Round 3, you've got the Panthers sandwiched in between. You've still got tough games against Souths. Round 4 and round 6, Queensland teams, rivalry there, and round 5 in Melbourne. So can they get that fast start again? They'll want to have a buffer over Origin, obviously. Remains to be seen how they go. A lot of hard games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump over to another side as well too. We now turn our attention to the Bulldogs. More big name signings coming to Belmore this year, which is very exciting. They haven't made the final since 2016, so the heat is well and truly on for them to get some big results. James, what stands out for you in the Bulldogs draw?
Round 1,
yeah,
Parramatta.
Yeah.
Huge rivalry. Always going to be a huge rivalry, and look, a lot of eyes will be on the Bulldogs and some of their new recruits, and it's a great way to start the season going up against the Eels, who, you know, they'll have their they'll be highly motivated for a fast start as well. But really looking forward to seeing how the Bulldogs attack with this new look team. Especially in the middle forwards there. We've seen some players leave in Pangai Jr. and Luke Thompson. There's some big holes to fill and shoes to fill there. Really excited to see how the players step up, but Stephen Crichton as well. Round 1, Parramatta. What a perfect way to make a statement for the Bulldogs.
And what about the rivalry as well too, with Penrith on there as well against Serraldo, Kikau, Burton, Crichton, Salmon, all coming from there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a big crossover from people from the Panthers, and that rivalry. It's great. I love these rivalries that are starting to form. But even looking at the draw, we don't have to wait very long to one of my favourite rivalries of all time. It's the Bulldogs against South Sydney on Good Friday.
Ooh,
Easter has come early.
One.
Easter's early. Yes, that was always. When I've taken my back to my playing days, that was always something I look for straight away. When is Easter, and when are we going to get to take on the Rabbitohs? That rivalry is very special. One of the calendar games in the NRL season. What
is it about that rivalry between Bulldogs and South that makes it so gritty?
A couple of poms help that. I don't know. Something about playing at Easter, I think as well. The crowd.
Yeah.
The crowd made it. So you're out there at that stadium, and both sets of fans went there looking to win and in big numbers. And I think the more people that are at the stadium, it appeals to the sense of occasion.
Yeah.
And that built over the years from, I think, 2012 it first began. And yeah, hopefully the supporters of both teams can get down there and see this rivalry continue on, because it is a very special place to be at Easter time. Good Friday, you get the win and you can relax and enjoy your Easter eggs on Sunday.
Go straight to the Easter show next door.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But I have my Easter eggs on Easter Saturday.
Yeah,
if you get the win, if you lose, no, you got to wait till maybe Easter Monday.
Right, okay, that's fair. What about you, Paulie? There's a few stats on this one.
Yeah, look, the Bulldogs had no problem scoring points last year. They actually got 20 or more on 12 occasions, but only won 5 of those. So losing 7, equal worst in the league. So they'll be looking to turn that around. Now, one advantage they do have, they only played Panthers, Storm and Broncos once. So 3 of the heavyweights, they're lucky to only get them once. But James, you said it, the start's critical. If they can find a way to win at least 2 of their first 4, I think it gives them a bit of momentum. If they're coming from behind, and they do have a tough start, Eels and Sharks away, they do have the Titans at Belmore, but then the round 4 Good Friday clash, it's not going to be easy. Will they be fighting from outside the 8 early on, or can they find a way to get in there?
Titans at Belmore as well. Des Hasler.
Yep.
Back in there. Interesting to see how his reception is at Belmore. That should be very interesting.
Beautiful.
Hopefully he gets
a nice reception.
A nice reception.
Yeah,
I think he deserves that. Yeah, I think he deserves it. He did a lot for that club, but yeah, just adds to the occasion, doesn't it? I love how these little things happen. I don't know if it's by design or by accident, but yeah.
Oh, there's someone up there just doing this. They need drama in rugby league. We need it all.
We do.
All right, well, now on to the Cowboys after finishing a second in 2022. They dropped to 11th last year. James, what went wrong last year that I guess Coach Toddy Payton can sort of improve and move into this year? They had a lot of injuries, a few players sort of bordering on retirement.
Yeah, look, I think last year the observations of the Cowboys is, I think they paid the price for success.
Yeah.
So teams took them more seriously, and then also a heavy representation in the international scene. They'll be better for that run. Some of those some very young players, especially in the edge back row, that had amazing season 2022s, but then perhaps didn't quite know how to manage that representative season. So I think we'll see a much improved Cowboys from what we saw last year. The signs were there. They put on some magnificent performances, but consistency was the big issue for the Cowboys, in my opinion. And yeah, looking at their schedule, it's probably going to be. You're probably going to hear this for every team. The importance of starting well.
Yeah.
It cannot be understated. It is so important. You want to look at the first 4 games, and if like Paulie says, if you can get 3 from 4, those teams that have been in and around like the middle 8 or the bottom not in the top 4 from last season, that those other teams, they need to be looking at a 3 from 4 start.
Well, that's going to be a tough run for them. I think only 2 home games in their first 7 are going to be at home, which gives them a pretty rough time on the road. And then, but they finish with 8 from 12. I think, sorry, 6 from 8 at home. So
6 from 8 at home, it is massive, and their performance staff will know that. So they can look to start really fast and then taper off as the season goes down, and then really use that home ground advantage, especially later in the season when the heat starts to turn up a little bit. They should be certainly look to use that to their advantage. Any team that can see something like that, no need to travel. Guys, look, we're going to work really hard in this opening period, super fit, maintain that, and we can look to taper off and take advantage of that.
Paul, you've got some good stats on the Cowboys as well too. How does that come into play with their draw?
Garts, you and James have both mentioned it. Starting fast. So both the last 2 years, the Cowboys have probably not started quite as well as they would have liked. 2022, they actually didn't come to Sydney for the first 11 weeks. So they got to play a couple of games in Darwin and Canberra and the rest in Queensland. Now, in 2023, they did have to come down to Sydney a bit more. They changed from winning 17 games out of 24 in Queensland to 14, and then they had the extra away losses as well. So can they get that back on track? They only finished 1 win out of the 8 when it was all said and done. So that 6 out of 8 at the end might be enough just to get them over the line. They do have 16 of their 24 games in Queensland this year, which helps.
The Dolphins' first season may not have gained a top 8 berth, but largely would have been considered a success. Let's take a look now at the Dolphins' debut in the NRL.
The new boys, the Dolphins, and they're about to create some history. Now Russell King, straight through, he's got support. They're looming up, and there is the hammer. History at Suncorp Stadium. Double pump, Hammerson, Tommy Ryan, Tino! The Dolphins do it again!
Last seconds of the game, and a kick to the corner to ice the cake. They're going to get another. No, the Dolphins.
The hammer at speed, bust some tackles. Remember me, the hammer's back. Funny shakes on Matala. He's over.
Kenny Robbins there. He set sail. That's how it finishes in 2023 for the Dolphins.
Well, the Dolphins became everyone's second team, or most people's second teams, with the fins up attitude. They blew us away with the Roosters in round 1. And now, James, they have made some great signings leading into this year. We spoke about it a little bit earlier when we touched on the Broncos. But how do you see this affecting their draw this year?
Look, some great additions to their squad, but the one thing they don't have this time around is the emotion. The real emotion around the Dolphins coming into the season. So cast your mind back to this round 1 last season. How emotional were those scenes at Suncorp Stadium? They're not going to have that inaugural game again. They're not going to have the very first time to look to take on the Broncos and make a statement. So it'll be interesting to see how Wayne Bennett just taps into them in a different way. And there's no surprises with the Dolphins. Nobody in the NRL can look to underestimate them now. They've set the standard. Big ask if they can continue that.
And then, if you're just talking about no surprises, what about this little few extra players that they've added to their repertoire?
Yes, well, some very good additions, but also from what's already in there. And I look at a guy like Isaiah Qatar and him really growing in stature from what he's already bought. But lots to be excited about with Farnworth and Flegler in particular. Also Avarillo from the Bulldogs. We saw scenes there of Valence Tafare as well. Didn't he burst onto the scene? I think it was Magic Round last season. He was all over the place scoring tries. He's a magnificent talent. Lovely to see. It'd be great to see how he goes with another off-season under his belt, or another pre-season rather.
I guess a lot of the headlines will be surrounding the Queensland matchups that you'll be seeing. We've got the round 1 against the Cowboys. It's a Sunday afternoon game, which will be amazing. And then you're also going to round 6 clash against Brisbane. we talk about emotion, you're not going to be able to take much emotion away still from those Queensland derbies.
No, and this is one of the major reasons why the Dolphins were brought into the competition. We needed a Brisbane derby, and we've got that, and hopefully that will continue to grow. We saw scenes earlier of Katoni Staggs racing away to score the try and the big celebration, making a statement. Well, I have a feeling that Wayne Bennett might just show that clip an hour or two before kickoff.
Okay, we'll let Wayne know. I reckon, Paulie, you've got some good stats, and I know we don't have a wealth of them, but a good year would give us a little bit of info.
Yeah, so you've mentioned the ambush, I call it, against the Roosters in round 1. Well, I tell you what, this year they get a different type of ambush. Their first 6 weeks are in Queensland, then they go to Darwin for a week, then 4 more weeks back in Queensland before New Zealand round 12. A great opportunity. They went 6 from 10 last year to start the season. Great opportunity to even better that with a kind start to their draw.
All right, well, we look to the next team as well too. We are heading over to the Dragons, a new coach in Shane Flanagan. It means new beginnings for the joint venture. The Sharks local derby will have added a little bit of extra spice there, boys, as well too. They're playing round 9. James, I guess, what do you think Shane Flanagan is going to bring to this outfit?
Look, I'm so pleased for Shane.
Cool.
He's obviously a very passionate guy, loves to be involved in coaching. He's been desperate for this. He takes on a tough challenge in the Dragons, who probably haven't performed to their best in recent seasons, but Shane Flanagan has been there and done that before with the Cronulla Sharks, and I can't wait to see. That's where he's really made his name, and I can't wait to see how he goes back and plays against the Sharks. Thankfully, we don't have to wait too long, round 9. And we get it again in round 25. But it's funny, as a player, that experience going against your old team, and it's not pleasant. It feels weird.
Yeah.
But as a coach, where you really made your name, where you won a premiership, I can't imagine it'd be difficult to put into words to feel to know how Shane is feeling about that one. It'd be interesting, and no doubt he's going to get inundated with questions about it, and he'll be playing it with a straight bat. Everybody, no, it's fine. It's just another game.
It's not.
It's not. It's not. But speaking of receptions that people, former players and former coaches get, Shane, hopefully, all being well, will get the respect and the cheers that he deserves from those Sharkies fans.
Well, he'll have a couple of rematches coming into this year. Obviously, the Sharkies, and then you've also got Manly, where he's just come from working underneath Siebes as well. But moving that aside, what about the culture at the club? I know you're a passionate man when we start talking about culture. There was a lot going on at the end of last year. We know Benny Hunt staying involved as well too. Bringing Shane Flanagan into that mix, knowing him as a person and knowing that environment at the Dragons, what change is that going to bring to the club? Yeah, well, look, I think he's already stated publicly that he's made some adjustments to the arena that the players come into. He's got to tap into some things down there about mentality for the group at the Dragons, and it might take some time, but I think in Shane Flanagan they're in safe hands. He's a proven winner. I've worked with him a little bit before in my time at the Dragons when he was assistant coach, and he demands success, and if you're not going to be successful and if you're going to take shortcuts, he's not going to stand for that. So I think all the players at the Dragons are on notice with Shane. Yeah, he's a man that demands it, and he's got evidence to back that up. He's not just saying, he won't be saying it for the sake of saying it. He's saying, look guys, I've proved to you that this recipe works, so get on board. All right, well, Paulie, what's the recipe at the moment with all the stats there?
Yeah, the Dragons actually, even though they came second last, they were in a majority of their matches last year. They actually had 10 games where they finished, whether it was a 6-point or less margin. They only won 3 of them. That's 30%. Now, James, when you played for the Dragons, regular season games, your percentage was 58.3%. It's almost double. So you can see the clear difference with what happened last year. Winning those close games could really make a big difference. The second stat is they didn't win an away game all year.
Wow.
So if they're able to turn that around, they have 2 early games against the Titans and Dolphins. Both those teams didn't make the 8 last year, so they'll have them circled as a good start for the year. They can get that monkey off their back and get the season rolling.
Well, Paulie, unfortunately for the players, when you don't win close games, what coaches usually take from that is you're not fit enough.
So it could be a big pre-season.
And I'm not saying that that's correct, but that is what coaches think. That is what coaches think. If we're losing these close games.
And a first-time coach for a new club, do they like to stamp their mark in the off-season?
Yeah, well, conditioning gets you results.
Oh, there's some PTSD on this
Oh, yeah.
desk. All right, on to the Eels now, and another team that are really hoping for a bounce-back year after the 2022 grand final appearance and then finishing at 10th last season. James, how do you see the 2023 season unravel, I guess, for Parramatta last year? Where did it start? Where did it finish? And will it come back into its own sort of shine this year?
Well, let's not forget, they played in the grand final this season 2022. I thought the occasion maybe got the better of them that day. Penrith Panthers, the champion outfit that they were, just started unbelievably well, and the game was over by half-time. Now, did the Eels perhaps look back at that season and count it as a successful one? Yes, they probably did, and they should have as well. But you know, all this talk of were they in a window, are they in the window? Who knows? I think personally, if they hit their straps and they can get a little bit of the rub of the green and a little bit of luck, they can get back into that window. But if you look back at last year, they had a horrible start. Their draw was very unfavourable for Parramatta. They had that last gasp win against the Penrith Panthers. Remember where Cleary kicked a 2-point field goal from inside his own? Yeah, and then I can't even remember what happened, but I know that Parramatta somehow won that game in Golden Point. So the proof was there that they can do it. They can go toe-to-toe with this back-to-back-to-back championship team. They even beat them quite convincingly at the back end of the season. Yeah. But for the Eels, it's about consistency, and they'd like to, I think, if they were to go back to last year, have that start those first 5 games all over again. Yes, granted, they were playing teams consistently off the back of the buys. I'm not too sure, Paulie, you'll probably tap into their strength of schedule.
I've got some stats
coming into this year. And perhaps if you were to look back and if that wasn't the case, they may have performed better later on in the season, because that does take the juice out of you. Having those tough games, I think they were only losing by a try or less from memory, and they were so close, and that just doesn't drain you physically, but it drains you emotionally as well, especially the fact that they were coming off a grand final and lots of external pressure about this window that they were supposed to be in or out of.
Well, that's, I mean, that window, and also Sean Lane were injured for quite a fair bit. They're your main playmakers in there. Add to that your RCG suspension at the end of the year, which took a lot of bite out of their dog in that as well too. Paulie, what are some of the other stats that we should be looking for when we look at this draw for the Eels?
James, you mentioned it right. So we delve even deeper. Those first 5 games last year, the average win of their opponent was 15.4, whereas the league average is under 12. So they had it very tough. The stats back that up. This year, the average wins of their opponent from last season is 10.6. So now they go in with, perhaps you could argue, a softer schedule than the average in the league. Can they win a couple more of those early games? They went 1 and 4, as you said. They only missed the 8 by a win, a single win.
And they beat the champions twice.
That's right.
Does that?
Like, that must be so frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, you know you can get it done. And they've got a style that can beat this unbelievable, talented, well-drilled team in the Panthers. But they just have too many hiccups, and I think Brad Arthur will be looking to iron out those problems, and he'll be pointing to those facts that we can beat the Penrith Panthers. But why can't we play that style of football each and every week? Like, it's easy to say behind the desk, very difficult to do, but that's what Brad Arthur will be trying to tap into.
Well, you spoke about the Bulldogs-South rivalry when you were a player there as well too, and that was a game that you loved to get up for, so it'd be interesting to see that sort of resonate with the players, obviously, that Penrith Panthers.
Oh, no doubt there's something about the Eels when they play the Panthers. It seems to tap into something differently.
All right, well, let's tap into another team right now, onto the Knights, and a fantastic achievement to make it to week 2 of the NRL finals last year. Coach Adam O'Brien and also Captain Kalen Ponga will be hungry to go a step or two further in 2024. But what do they need to do to possibly go to crack into that top 4, to go that extra inch? We're seeing them get there, and I mean, they had an amazing run at end of season last year. Can they continue that going into this season?
I hope so. It'll be off the back of Kalen Ponga's brilliance. Like, that's he was the a huge catalyst for their turnaround in form, and probably saved O'Brien his job. I think, you know, most people were expecting him to be gone, and then all of a sudden, Kalen Ponga, who'd had you know, an indifferent start to the season with a number of different issues, and just grabbed that club by the scruff of the neck and said, I'm going to take control of this, you're going to come with me. And you know, that's why he capped the season off with the Dalian winners medal. He was so good. So, you know, we speak often about consistency of clubs, of teams, but of players. If Kalen can reach those heights again, but for every single round that the Knights playing, they're going to be a threat. And they've got some great players in and around him as well. You look at Bradman Best, when he came back from State of Origin, he was a new player.
Yeah.
So yeah, players like him, but it's all on KP, and you know, hopefully Brayley can be fit as well for the majority of the season. I think he'll be really important because they've got some great forwards, the Saifiti boys, Frizzell. They're a dangerous outfit, the Newcastle Knights, but you know, they, in terms of making the top four, they just left it a little bit too late to get into that top four.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll be looking to make a different start to what they did last year. The first start of the season was horrific, wasn't it, Paulie?
Yeah, so basically we've got a stage where at the start of the year they lost a lot of close games, they figured it out, and then they came rushing home. This year they start with the same game that finished the Raiders season essentially. So Knights v the Raiders, what a great round one clash. It's up there in Newcastle. It's going to be essentially for all the marbles because the Raiders will want revenge. Can they get off to the better start? And then when we look at the back end, they had the 9-game winning streak. No coincidence, 5 of those last 8 games were at home. They've got 3 of their last 5 at home this year. West Tigers, the Titans and Dolphins. None of those teams made the finals last year. They'll be thinking again, if we can be there or thereabouts, we'll be able to make a run at the end, and maybe the difference, the top 4 as opposed to just the top 8.
Well, it just turned into a fortress up there at McDonald Jones Stadium, didn't it? All right, speaking of fortresses, on to the 3-time premiers now. And in case you forgot, here's a quick reminder of an instant classic grand final.
The grand final is off. It's high in the air. It's knocked back. It's a trident. It's Kenny. Flagler. Here's Ramam from a standing start with blistering footwork. He's beaten them for pace. Man for the corner. What a try. Mam again straight through. It's Ramam. He's going to get a try scoring double in the grand final. Now Walsh. Clearing came out. Walsh went straight through. Entrance there. It's Ramam for a hat-trick. The Broncos have got another one. Coggle with Cleary. Dummies. Cleary gets through. Where's the support? Back on the inside. Leota with the try. And now they're back to Crichton. They might have a chance here. Crichton for the line. He gets a try. It goes to Cleary. Nathan Cleary. Oh! Wow! Cleary's done it all himself. Penrith have done it. This is the greatest team of the modern era.
Oh, you still get tingles watching that game. We were questioning whether they were going to make it a three-peat. Now we're asking, can they go 4 in a row, James?
You know what, Renee? I'm just a fan, I'm just a pundit. And I keep seeing that, I'm like, did that actually happen? What an incredible game. And what a performance by Nathan Cleary in the last 20 minutes. It was that phrase gets used all the time, but unbelievable.
Yeah.
That actually was. It still doesn't feel real right now. You ask me, can they go 4 in a row? Well, why not?
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to go 3 in a row.
No.
They weren't supposed to go back to back.
Correct.
So
but
these and they're a highly motivated team. Yes, they've lost some talent, but they've lost talent before.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest shoes to fill are going to be that of Spencer Leniu.
Yeah.
I really, it's something that, as an observer of the game, you notice the difference he makes when he comes on, and having that genuine interchange player that comes on makes a difference. Not many teams have that. I think it was a huge advantage to the Panthers. Yeah, they lose Crichton, arguably the best centre in the competition in the world right now, but Spencer Leniu, his loss should not be underestimated. So those are big shoes to fill, but the shoes of losing Abby Coruscant have been filled before.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see a reason why they can't. They look a highly motivated team. Success doesn't seem to bother them. They seem to go after and want more. If they can remain healthy, there's absolutely no reason. I think for me, we spoke about in round 3, they're going to play the Broncos. I'm super excited for that one.
Yeah. What about the round 1 Storm? That's going to be a belter as well.
Yeah, it's a hard game to start your
This
season,
is a
especially
huge opener.
Especially if they do go to England to play the Wigan Warriors in the World Club Challenge and then come back. That's a tough game to start your campaign against the Storm. And then I don't know who they play in round 2, but then round 3, the Broncos as well. Very, very difficult opening 3 games for the Penrith Panthers, but they'll just take on the challenge just like they have each and every time they've been faced with anything over the past couple of seasons.
What about you, Paulie? Are you a bit starry-eyed when it comes to the Panthers as well?
Yeah, great performance, obviously. Yeah. One key stat, though, last year they actually had a lot of games where against non-top 8 teams they lost, 5. And I'm thinking about the rivalries. Obviously the Eels didn't make it. You mentioned, James, they lost twice to them. The West Tigers, Ivan Cleary used to be the coach. Obviously Episode Coruscant's gone there now. They've got to play them in round 7. They play the Eels in round 2. They've got Manly in round 5. That's not going to be an easy game either. So can they turn around some of these non-top 8 losses? They won the most games against other top 8 teams, 10 last year. That might be hard to replicate. So then they've got to make up for it by winning a few of those ones that are supposed to take care of business. But everyone wants to beat the Premiers, especially when they've won 3 times.
Geez, that is a very tough opening 3 weeks.
Yeah, very tough.
Melbourne.
Melbourne in Melbourne.
Melbourne,
and
Para,
a big rivalry,
and then the Broncos as well. Like, if you Ivan Cleary, you're looking into the conspiracy theories. Are they really don't want us to win 4 in a row, guys? But that will just tap into the emotion of the Panthers. Like, wow, what a team.
All right, well, let's tap into the emotion of our next side. We're going to look over to analyse the Rabbitohs. James is a team with all the potential in the world, but no premierships since the 2014 drought break.
Thanks for bringing that up. Any opportunity, Renee, don't you? Like, literally, that didn't need to be on the run sheet.
I'm sorry, I'll remove it. What about if
you
I
just say they've not won one for a while?
I couldn't help it.
No, thank you.
What about if I flash some bright lights in front of you and we talk about Vegas, because it's the hugely exciting opener that they're going to be having in a very tough encounter with Manly over on the Glitter Strip.
Oh yeah, it's like the superstars. It's Russell Crowe versus Hugh Jackman, isn't it?
You're not thinking about the other
There's
stuff.
lots of bragging rights at stake. And look, South Sydney, they'll be, again, all the teams that go to Vegas, it's Operation Get 2 points.
Yeah.
And obviously with Russell Crowe, there'll be lots talked about with South Sydney going over there, and it's just a way to get 2 points. I think you look back at South Sydney's year last year, they really missed Latrell when he was out, but then the travel period towards that back end of the season, I think there was 6 or 7 weeks where they were not just on the road, but requiring flights to get to their destination. So, and I don't think it weighed in their favour.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they start the season with a loss. Is it going to be, it's the travel? Do Souths travel well? And then teams will look to pick that apart. But Souths to be highly motivated, and they're a club that don't accept not making the 8. They didn't make the 8 last year, and obviously the acquisition of Jack White. And interesting to see how and where he fits into that back line, because there's some talented players there and some classic combinations. That left edge is absolutely lethal. So if you throw Jack White into there, who knows what it could be.
What about you, Paulie? Thoughts on South?
Yeah, and we know that they had a hard year last year, but it's not a coincidence. They actually played 13 games against the eventual top 8 teams. That was the most tied in last year. So there are some reasons, if not excuses, of how they maybe underperformed from their standards. This year again, they've got their work cut out for them. They actually have the second hardest schedule if you just look at teams' wins from last year, which things can change, but at the moment it does look tough for Souths. And you've already mentioned the opener, Manly, Brisbane, Roosters. Then Good Friday they get the Bulldogs. That's not going to be an easy game. And then they've got the Warriors. So those first 5 weeks, very tough. You mentioned the travel, James. They did have to do a lot at the back end. They didn't get the results. They're going to be flying to Vegas and back. So it won't be easy.
I think they would have picked up quite a few more fans on that sort of trip. They made it a big promotional trip as well too, so I think that was a big drive for them. But let's now turn our attention to Canberra. It's not going to be an easy year without the man Whiten, but they're always buoyed by one of the best home ground advantages in the comp. We can't forget the Viking clap, the passion of that home ground as well too. It was a good result by Ricky's men to make the top 8. They almost toppled the Knights in Newcastle to progress, and guess what? They'll go back to Newcastle in round 1 for a rematch in one of the most thrilling finals encounters that we saw last year. Looking at this Viking clap right now, what's it like? I know you've probably seen it more as a commentator on the sidelines down there now. It's a pretty big home crowd to jump in front of as a player.
Yeah, it adds to the occasion, adds to the atmosphere, and Canberra, especially in the winter, this just goes to show how much I've changed since coming here. I'm complaining about
Softened.
Not even below 0 temperatures in Canberra, but no, it certainly adds to the occasion. And look, Canberra and Ricky Stewart, he did a wonderful job last year. Mm-hmm. Such a wonderful job with the Raiders, and he knows they're not particularly well fancied or well liked, and he gets the players down there to respond into that. The man on the screen here, Corey Horsburgh, what a player, what an inspiration. He's a firecracker for sure. But look, they lose this skipper, Jared Croker, which is unfortunate. Here's another guy on screen right now, is an absolute excitement machine, Tomoko.
You're right. And what do the numbers say, Paulie?
Yeah, last year, obviously Raiders making the 8. And we know they've got a good home record, but 6 and 5, probably not as high as Ricky would hope. They want it to be a fortress down there. They were 8 and 3 only in 2022. So can they get that back? Away games are often a problem for them. They've got a few favours this year. They have to go up for Magic Round. They've actually won their last 3, and they play the Dogs. So can they make it 4 up in Magic Round? They then play the Dogs again later in the year at Belmore. They've beaten them the last 2 times they've played there. And then they've got Melbourne in Melbourne. Ricky's not afraid of that. 5 out of the last 6 in Melbourne, they've beaten the Storm. So can they get these wins that they'll probably look on the calendar and say, we can do this, and that'll be enough to at least make the 8 again and maybe even higher?
You missed my favourite stat for all away teams, 6 home games during winter. I know they keep those away sheds nice and chilly.
Nothing wrong with that. Sorry, guys, the thermostat just broke. We can't do anything about it.
Cold showers.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. One of our teams heading to Vegas in round 1 is the Sydney Roosters. They're a team that everyone was talking about heading into 2023, but now they get to fly a little bit under the radar. They're still a very strong squad. They also get the inclusion of England flyer Dom Young on the wing. I know he was a little bit sick and missed out on the internationals, James, but what do you make of this Roosters outfit? And it's very rare that you would say that they're an underdog coming into a season.
Oh, they can't be underdogs this year. I just don't
under the radar? Would that be a better?
I've got high expectations for the Roosters this season. I just can't see what happened last year repeating itself, and I think the acquisition of Spencer Leniu, I think he could be the signing of the year for season 2024 if all things go well. It'll be interesting to see how that first training session is between him and Jared Warrior-Hargreaves after they were squaring off in one of the games last year. But he's going to be an incredible signing for them, and I think the Roosters, it was a strange old season, wasn't it? I couldn't quite identify what actually happened, but I think now you look at, they'll be more familiar with Brandon Smith, with his style of play. I think we saw the best of Brandon at the back end of the season, and I think it was a trigger within the Roosters that they found a way to play with this new style of dummy half, and I only expect that to grow. And when you've got guys like Brandon Smith teaming up with Spencer Leniu, as well as the already star-studded team, I'm expecting big things from the Roosters this season. Well,
that's the thing. It was consistency in the halves. It was the bounce between Tedesco and Manu in fullback. It was trying to tame the beasts when you looked at Radley and Jared there as well too. They've now signed Dom coming into that, which adds a little bit more strike power on the outside as well. Quite a few changes coming into this year, but I think it comes down to the facts and figures as well too, Paulie. What are we looking at stats-wise there?
Yeah, I think so. And they had to come a long way back from the field, you'd have to say, in 2023. They only had 6 weeks inside the top 8. So, and the last time they were in there was round 10. And then they had all that time out, and then obviously in the last round they catapult back in to make the finals. They even have an upset win over the Sharks, go on. The job for Trent Robinson this year is how does he get that earlier part in the year so he just remains consistent in the top 8, fighting for top 4. It's a tough start. We're talking about all these high-ranked teams you expect to do well, James, but they've all got these tough starts. Vegas, Brisbane. Then they come back and they have to play Manly. That won't be easy. Then the Rabbitohs, the rivalry game. And then guess what round 4 is? They've got to play the Premiers, Penrith. So another team that just...
Wow, that is a tough start.
Yeah. How
I
does
think
Trent
you've said that
Robinson-
several times.
It's all the big teams all playing each other.
Penrith and Roosters in particular have got incredibly difficult starts. And there's no easy games. Everyone would look at that and go, oh, there's a tough start. But when you throw the travel in for the Roosters as well, that's that's very difficult. I like what the NRL have done there, though, where they're ensuring that all the teams that travel to Vegas play each other.
Yes.
So it's on a level playing field there. So I think you say, like the Roosters, they play over in Vegas, and then they'll play the 2 remaining teams in round 2 or 3. I've got to applaud the NRL for doing that. I think that's, what it does, it stops coaches moaning. Yeah. So they've had the foresight and gone, we're not going to let you moan about this. Just play each other. Everyone's on a level playing field here in the NRL.
All right, well, we definitely are on a level playing field because the NRL draw has been released for 2024, and we were talking about all the things about it for every team right here on NRL.com. One big part of the draw is our round 1 doubleheader in Las Vegas. Take a look how you can get your tickets and be part of history. Well, the excitement is mounting, and another team heading to Vegas next year is the Manly Seagulls. They had a huge first-up match against the Rabbitohs. Coach Anthony Seibold has a season under his belt now as well too. They haven't made the 8 for a couple of consecutive seasons now. What are your expectations on these Northern Beaches boys, I guess you would call them, men?
Yeah, look, I think they need to stop relying on Tommy Taburovic. I think there's been over reliance on him to pull something out the hat. I really like the young centre 3/4 who plays a bit of wing in Kohler. I wouldn't be surprised to him to take up some responsibility in that fullback role as the season goes on, and just balance it out, because for too long now Manly have relied on Cherry Evans, the man on your screen right now, and Tommy Taburovic. I think they've got potentially the best back row in the competition. If Schuster can play to his full potential, now he's not going to play in the halves and play on an edge. If he can realise that potential, the threat of him on one side, the ball playing ability that he possesses, probably needs to balance it out with his running game. And then on the other side, Olakuatu, good luck.
Yeah, some big guys on there. I think one of the best things for Manly, and we speak about rivalry rounds and whatnot, they've got so many home games on Sunday at Brookie Oval, or Four Pines Park we call it as well too. How much of a fortress and how much of a difference will that make to this Manly side? Yeah,
look, it's massively important. Like this home ground, regional, almost suburban ground feel that Four Pines Park has. What we see with success is that fans come to the games, and it makes such a difference. But if Manly don't win, then the fans don't go. It's like every team in every sport across the world, but they can really look to tap in, especially on a Sunday afternoon. If you're playing in the maroon of Manly and you're winning Sunday afternoon, imagine how good that's going to be.
And what about Seibold going up against the Dragons, seeing Shane Flanagan now with the coach's cap on as well too? That will be a big game for both coaches to get up for. Yeah,
it sure will do. Obviously Shane will know them inside out after working there for so long, but I think the interesting one is is when they play the Titans, and Des Hasler has obviously won a premiership there. I think I'm just looking at the stats here. That's round 27 on the Gold Coast. So we've got to wait a very long time.
Yeah.
A lot of
Round
water.
7.
Oh, they play in round
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
Ah.
There. So
It's
Desi
not
gets
too
to-
long.
Ah,
It'll be
sorry, round
interesting.
7. Yes, that will be. Sorry, I misread that. Yeah, that should be.
You're salivating.
How you know, I just with the games and being in opposition, you just love subplots.
Yeah.
And this is just I'd love to see Desi's pre-game interview for that one.
No, the post-game interview I think would be massive. But Paulie, you've got some great stats on what Siebes could maybe look forward to for 2024.
Yeah, Guts, both you and James mentioned that important home crowd. The issue is last year they took a game to Mudgee. They also played a home game on Magic Ground. They got 1 point out of a possible 4, a draw and a loss. This year they're off to Vegas, and then they've got Magic Round again as a home game. Can they get all 4 points from that? They only missed by 3 points. So there's your difference. Those 2 home games that are away from home, they need to find a way to win them.
I think what we find when we look at a lot of the teams, the margins are very fine,
Yeah.
and all teams will be looking. They know they're not that far away, but because of, and it's a compliment to our competition of just how close it is.
Yeah.
Like you know the margin for error is so small, but that excites. It should excite every fan and every coach, because you know if you can close that margin for error, we're going to be in the top 8. But this is why it's the hardest competition to win, and this is even again to pour more praise on the Penrith Panthers. Like this is an incredibly difficult competition to even win each and every week. Yeah, what a performance from the Panthers over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's move on now to the Sharks. Coach Craig Fitzgibbon has made the NRL finals in both of his 2 seasons coaching at the club. But now the pressure is on to go one step further and make that grand final. James, what will it take for the Sharks to make that next step and for Fitzy to get his side just to go that extra step?
Wins against top 8 teams,
Yeah.
and more specifically top 4 teams. So I think that's been an issue for the Sharks over the past couple of seasons, even when they finished in the top 4 a couple of seasons ago. Their record against teams in and around them wasn't great. That's got to be an area of focus, is how they come up and perform against the big dogs of the competition.
What about you, Polly? A few stats on this one as well too for the Sharks.
Yeah, we can delve deeper into that. So last year, they actually only won 3 games against top 8 opponents. So no other top 8 team did lower than that. The average is over 5.5 wins for top 8 teams to beat other top 8 teams. So they've got a way to go. Even in 2022, they made the top 4. They only won 4 out of 9 against opposing top 8 teams. One thing in their advantage, though, this year, they actually only play 9 games against top 8 opponents, which is low compared to what the league average will be. So there's an opportunity for Fitzgibbon to kind of ease them up to it, shall we say. And in fact, after round 14, there's only 2 more games against top 8 opponents. So
Wow. Top 8 opponents from season
2023.
Yeah.
So that's looking all right for them? To help them in terms of that back end?
Well, look, I think it's more of an emphasis even on the start, because we know that the top 8 from season 2023 won't be from season 2024. But you know that's what everybody's looking for, is how they perform against those top 8 teams. So if they face a lot of those early, that could really assist them going into the back end of the season and push for top 4 again.
If you just look at the schedule from a wins from last year's perspective, they have the easiest draw.
All right, well, one easy draw is not the Storm. Let's journey down south now as we delve into Melbourne Storm, facing off in a colossal round 1 clash against the reigning premiers Penrith, who convincingly took out both encounters last year. But that's not all. A thrilling twist awaits in their annual Anzac Day showdown against the Rabbitohs. James, with this intriguing lineup, where do you see the Storm charting their course in 2024?
Well, you never write off the Melbourne Storm.
No.
Interesting to see there's going to be a change to Anzac Day this year. That's I've really enjoyed them playing against the Kiwis or the Warriors there. Sorry, but the Warriors rightfully will get their home game, so we see a little bit of a change to that. And the Storm have a magnificent record, so maybe we'll see that record change or at least challenge.
Just a bit of a mix-up.
Yeah, well, they seem to relish playing the Warriors on Anzac Day, and you can see Coach Bellamy really taps into the players. You know, that storytelling ability, but you know the Storm. You just can't afford to write them off. They've got some really exciting young players coming through, and you know when we see it's all good doing it late in the season, but the rigour of back-to-back, week-to-week football, and you know the man on your screen as well. Fingers crossed we see a fully fit Ryan Pappenhausen, because he can make such a difference. We tend to forget just how good he is and what he can do, and the guy far longer as well. Wow, imagine him coming off the bench after you've got a bit of fatigue in the legs. That isn't pleasant.
Well, and add to that, I mean, we're speaking about that side that we saw in that highlight package as well too, is the Broncos, and they have a great rivalry with those guys as well.
Yeah, well, again, the rivalry. What did they break the? Yeah. They break the hoodoo.
Statman.
Yeah, it was in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and I think if you go to Brisbane, I think it was 2009, so it was even longer. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been broken. So yeah, we'll look forward to those two going up against each other again. They put on some magnificent games, those two clubs.
Yeah, well, they produce some big stats as well too, Paulie.
Yeah, and they'll play in round 5 back down in Melbourne, so they get a bit of an advantage there. But what they don't get the advantage of is, again, the amount of wins that the opponents had in 2023. If you add them up, the Storm have the hardest schedule, hardest draw going into 2024. And as James said, things change as the year goes on. Teams can perform differently, but if we just look at that stat, it's not a great one for Coach Craig Bellamy. Neither is this one. 4 blowout losses. That's 16 or more last year, right? Not in the usual mould of Bellamy coach teams. The rest of the top 4 only had 3 combined of 16 or more losses. 2 of those losses were against the Panthers. So they're a long way off the pace when you just look at them to the team that won it, and that's what he'll need to improve.
Yeah, and I hate to be in that shed. And my head trying to understand that right then was a lot to take on. All right, we head on to the Gold Coast Titans now, and a new coach in Desi Hadsler signals a new era for the Gold Coast. There's some big derbies against the Broncos, the Dolphins to look forward to, but perhaps the biggest game of all, James, will be when the old mentor Des Hasler goes up against his old Manly club in round 7 at home.
Yes, well, I had this experience myself when first playing at the Bulldogs with Des when he came up against Manly, and look, he puts on a face, but we know deep down it's going to mean, we knew it was going to mean a lot to him, and you know the Titans players will get a sense for that as well. There's a big emotion. Des has done so much for that Manly club, but he'll move on pretty quickly, and I'm excited to see what he does with this Titans outfit. The Titans, I'm sure, Paulie, you'll speak to some of their unfortunate come from behind losses. I don't know if that's the correct way of describing it, but let's put it this, let's just be blunt. They've blown some massive leads. Again, I spoke earlier in the piece about what that sort of tends to mean to coaches. They sort of look at that and go, well, we're not fit enough. Well, Des will have this team incredibly well drilled, and there's some super exciting players up on the Gold Coast and playing their trade for the Titans. AJ Brimson on screen. Interesting to see how Des fits him and Jaden Campbell, 2 outstanding fullbacks. I think whoever he chooses in that fullback role will be benefiting highly from Des's coaching now. So I think we've seen that with the number of fullbacks that Des has had under his wing, and those 2 guys in particular I'm really excited for.
And then you've also got the halves pairing as well too, Sexton or Boyd, who's going to partner up with Foreign. I mean, we've seen some great football from his first. Sexton has gone to the Dogs, so I'm just getting confused there. Foreign, he can't have much more left in his playing career, so you're going to have to start looking at what that halves combo is going to be looking at moving forward. Are we going to see pivots of that this year?
Yeah, maybe Brimson will play more of a half-back style role. But Foran as well, his performances at the back end for the Titans and for the Kiwis as well. He still looks like he's got plenty of life in him left, and there'll be and he as well is experienced with Des. So when that style of coach can come in, it's important to have that voice between the younger players and the coach, because they'll be intimidated. The likes of Jaden Campbell will be super intimidated by the Des Hasler going into his coaching office. So Foran will be a good sounding board for both Des and those younger players as well. And even in that particular role, don't be surprised to see him extend further than season 2024.
Yeah. What about you, Paulie? You've got some good stats on the Titans.
Yeah, well, James, you'll be acutely aware of Des Hasler's emphasis on defence. And the Titans, unfortunately, 7 games lost where they scored 20 or more points. So clearly the aspect that they need to improve, and you mentioned it, they had leads and let them slip. If they can fix up their defence, the league average when you score over 20 points is only 3 losses. So if they get 4 more points, they can just get to the average. They actually make the 8.
Again,
that's the difference.
The margins are so fine.
Yeah.
And this is why every fan and every coach gets excited, because no team is that far away.
No, you turn it around like that. They play the Dragons first up. Dragons, one of the lower edge of the thing of scoring points. So we'll know early, has Des got them turned around defensively.
Well, this is why we're already excited about 2024, but let's look at 2023. The Warriors had a year to remember. Let's take a quick look back at the achievements of last year for the team across the Tasman.
He's running Johnson! Johnson's got it, he's going to score! Montoya! Oh, yes! Nkosi! Oh, straight down the middle, he's done it again. Adam for the play. Johnson, he put plenty on this. Watene Zelezniak! Watene Zelezniak flying! Johnson at the line, Walker straight down the middle. Takes on Russell and scores! For the win! For the win! Sean Johnson! Watene Zelezniak! Another one! Top 4 spot locked away.
Some key games. Round 1 against the Sharks, Anzac round for the first time ever at home against the Titans, and the prelim rematch versus the Broncos in New Zealand in round 17. Add in their new rivalry with the Panthers, who they'll play in Magic Round as well. How can the Coach of the Year, Andrew Webster, and the Daily M runner-up in Sean Johnson improve on stellar seasons last year at the club? It's like they just had the most amazing year. How do they go one better?
Yeah, look, well, it's around being consistent again. Nobody saw the Warriors coming. Probably a level of understanding that teams will treat them differently now. They've made some great signings, in particular Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, him coming back into the fold. Lots to be excited about. It'd be interesting to see how Webster fits him into the team, because if there's one person that responded after the news of them signing Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, it was Chance.
Yeah.
He just went, "You're not coming and getting my jersey, mate. You can go and find somewhere else to play." So maybe we'll see Tuivasa-Sheck move into the centres where, he can inject himself in there. But the Warriors, it's all about the acknowledgement that everybody's going to treat them very, very differently this season. And on a note, just looking at the draw in general, look, how good is that these Auckland fans, these Warriors fans, get a home game on Anzac Day. It really looks to acknowledge the servicemen and women that have served both countries. That's pretty special, that they get that home game. And when you look from the outside looking in, you see the stadium, it all goes dark. What an occasion that will be on Anzac Day.
And do you think the emotion that we saw carry through a lot of last year, of everyone getting up and getting behind the Warriors? Again, they were almost like everyone's second team, like the Dolphins. Games were returning to New Zealand that they hadn't had before. They spread it across throughout New Zealand as well too. Will we see those same fans back? Will the emotion stay just as high?
Yeah. Well, look, they've got their slogan, "Up the Wires."
Yeah.
Like, that was gone global. So, I've matured in my old age, and I don't mind little slogans like that.
All right, speaking
Yeah.
of slogans, the man with all the analysis slogans, Paulie, what have you got for the Warriors?
Yeah, and no surprise, it's playing at home.
Yeah.
7 out of 9 at Go Media. They don't have 3 games in New Zealand, and they won 2 of those as well. So 3 of their first 4 this year will also be at home, either Auckland or I think Christchurch is one of them. So can they keep that percentage of wins at home? Because it's certainly going to help them making a top 4 again, even if you're going that high.
All right, well, let's move on to our final team. In the NRL draw, it is the West Tigers. It's Paulie's team as well too, so he's probably going to have extra stats on this one. 2 seasons to largely forget, but with Benji Marshall taking over the helm, some exciting new young talent emerging as well too. There are some really encouraging signs for the fans. I think Sheens is still going to be there for Benji. I know you're good friends with Benji as well too. What are you most looking forward to, and what changes are you going to see at West Tigers this year?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of change. But Benji has said openly he's not going to be the typical coach. Mm-hmm. He's played and performed under some of the game's best. So he'll take little bits of snippets of knowledge from all of those coaches that will influence them. What a horrible start, though. The bye in round 1. Like,
isn't that exciting? 2 points.
I bet
Can't be.
when he gets that email or that phone call, it's like, is this a joke? I have to wait another week because there's nothing like waiting.
But what a positive start, walking into the season with 2 points ready to go.
Oh, you just want to play. You really would.
You're chomping at the bit by that
You'd just be
stage,
wanting
aren't
to
you?
play, and look, Benji's going to have to hold back and have a bit of a different approach to round 1, and he'll be watching multiple games of football before he gets to watch his team go round. So look, I think for Benji there's pressure, but there's not. They can't do any worse than what they've done. So he's a very respected person in the rugby league community, and he'll influence his team. And look, like I say, you can't do any worse, but I'm genuinely thinking that the Tigers will improve. Some young guys there, Jaden Sullivan from the Dragons. I've been so impressed with him when I was down there. He just couldn't break that injury. He couldn't quite crack week-to-week football. If he can, watch out. He's a talent.
You'd be looking forward to the Manly West Tigers game as well too. We've got Luke Brooks over that side, the Farmer brothers
Brooks
as well too, which are now from Manly over in
Doesn't
West
feel
Tigers
right,
camp.
does it? We're going to be seeing him in a Manly jersey. Oh.
And of course you've got Aaron Woods as well too, a former West Tigers player.
He's
with
been
Manly
near
as well.
He's been near enough everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a few rematches there. But you think that's going to be a bit of a game that a lot of people will have eyes on?
Yes, Luke Brooks at the club that he made his name at. Again, I've spoken about this before, but playing your old team. Well, Brooks is a junior there, came through there.
Yeah.
Lots of expectation there, was part of the big 4. Yeah, it'd be an emotional occasion for Luke Brooks. Maybe he'll take that barbecue back for them and say.
Maybe he'll just offer them some sausage sizzles out the back after the game. Another big one, Easter Monday clash, round 4 against the Eels.
Yeah, always good games. The Eels and the Tigers, and who could forget the opening game there at Combank Stadium. One for the Tigers to forget, but hopefully they can put on a better performance this time. But lots to be excited about for the Tigers. Some good acquisitions. You look at the influence that Benji can have, and I spoke about Des Hasler and the influence that he'll have on the fullbacks. Well, Jerome Bula and Benji Marshall, the very attacking-minded people. Could see some miraculous things this year.
All right, some positive news for West Tigers fans as well is Paulie's dug up some really good stats looking into this year.
A couple of things that they'll probably want to improve. One of them is they only scored 20 points or more in 5 games. So that was the lowest in the league. They'll need to improve that. You would imagine Benji Marshall, the way he played, was very attacking focused, that would be on the increase. The other thing was that games decided by 6 or less, they lost 7 out of 10 of those. So much like the Dragons we talked about earlier, not a high percentage of turning those close games into wins. Can they make a difference in both those areas? That would certainly be enough to get them off the bottom, and who knows, maybe fighting for a top 8 spot.
All right, well, thank you very much. Paulie, if you want to get more facts and figures from Paulie, he will be looking after all of the NRL fantasy shows throughout this season. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Garts. We'll be back later in the week to do a fantasy-focused draw.
Oh, that's going to get down and dirty into the details. I'm looking forward to it. That's on NRL.com. And, of course, James Graham, NRL great. We're looking forward to seeing you on the sidelines this year and hopefully get you in a little bit more as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Absolute pleasure. Don't forget about the massive round one opening kickoff starting in Vegas on March 2nd with Manly taking on South and the Roosters playing the Broncos. Then the following weekend, the rest of the games, including that amazing semi-final rematch between the Newcastle and Raiders. We have the Warriors at home, Melbourne hosting the defending premiers Penrith, and the local derbies in the Eels, Bulldogs and Dolphins and Cowboys. It's going to be a great season. Make sure you head to nrl.com/tickets for all the ticketing information and NRL news and highlights.